Raganama, how you doing?
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot for doing this.
Absolutely.
Now you're a Charlotte native. You live around here, or do you live around here and are a Charlotte native, or do you come from somewhere else?
Originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
No way. Go Steelers. That's awesome.
Go Steelers. Spent the first 25, 26 years growing up in Pittsburgh. Great place to,
Sure.
to grow up. But for what we do for a living was not the ideal city to stay in.
Yeah. So you're an interesting use case because you have Broad Street Homes, you have Synergy Construction, you work for a big national home builder for like 12 years, NBR, and you got your law degree, right? So
Yes.
you're kind of a renaissance man if ever saw one.
Or I'm going through an identity crisis.
Or
and
you
trying
don't know
to
what you
figure
want
out
to do
what
when
I
you
wanna
grow
do
up.
when I grow up. Exactly right.
Very true.
But
So
you have a very good memory. All those things are very accurate. Yes.
So let me start off by asking you, like every business has pivots that it goes through along the way. Is what you're doing right now with Synergy and with Broad Street what you always intended to do, or is it more of a function of the little pivots you made along the way? Because
Great question. It's definitely the latter. I think you go in with the best intentions of this is what the path is going to be for Broad Street Homes. We're gonna grow this business. We're gonna stay on the production home building side, and it's gonna be more traditional in a sense. And that was the goal when I joined the company. The company was started by my brother Michael in 2014.
okay,
I joined the company in late 2018, early 19 to scale the business, and we did. At the same time, Michael had what I thought was kind of a crazy idea to bring back his roots of being in the framing business. He had framed thousands and thousands of units out of wood for so many years,
Sure.
and decided that there's got to be a better way to build a home. His idea, which I thought at the time was crazy, and there's still moments today that I think is crazy,
Sure.
is to build homes out of light gauge steel, and I didn't know the first thing about light gauge steel. Couple that with panelization, we took the leap of faith and went from a logo and a business card to the largest in the entire country.
Really?
So after about 3 years, company just really exploded. But one of the questions that always came up inside our factory when we were doing factory tours and guests would join us is, what else can you guys do? We had an entire house built inside our factory, but it was just out of light gauge steel. So we had a lot of commercial contractors, residential contractors come and visit us and ask the question, well, can you guys run plumbing? Can you run electrical? Can you insulate, et cetera? And we said, no, we know what our limitations are. We're in the first chapter of our book. Maybe someday we'll be able to do that. And fast forward 6-7 years later, after 2.5 years of really paying attention on how to become a certified modular factory, that's what we've done. So to your question about pivoting, yes, we've had these small pivots along the way. We have pivoted away from just selling structural components like trusses and wall panels to now being able to fully construct entire homes inside our factory.
Really?
So we're IRC certified, and for folks that understand what that means, because I didn't initially, that means we can build to the same building code requirements and standards as any builder in any market.
Okay.
So it's not HUD certified. There's different certifications. This allows us to build anything based off of International Residential Building Code. Our factory is also ICC certified. So there's a lot of different products that we can build inside our factory.
So take me through that evolution. So you started off with your brother having essentially a home building company. Did you start building with wood, and then did you start using fabricated steel to build your homes? And eventually, when did building the factory become the thing that you did? So how'd you get from home builder to Synergy Steel to being a kind of this production modular facility?
Sure,
yeah. Seems like a big leap.
Yeah, I wish I could sit here and tell you there was this long, drawn
Was it your brother's idea?
multiple year business plan. It was more of younger brother calling bigger brother for advice.
Yeah.
And my advice was, don't do it.
Yeah, my older brother has the same advice for me whenever I want to do anything new. It's like, save your money, do what you do, don't take too much risk.
Yeah,
and be safe.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where he had contacted me and said, I got this great idea.
Yeah.
And I said, that sounds like a friend calling me with a stock tip. And every time I've said yes, I end up losing quite a bit. So I'm not sure we want to get into this business. But what he was not telling me is he had studied what was happening on the West Coast and really around the world about trying to build a better widget.
Yeah.
And for him, it was, we gotta be able to build homes out of a better product. And he made the switch. And my initial reaction was, everything you've told me sounds great, but I think we're going to be 30% more expensive just on the limited knowledge that I have. And if we're going to take this to the market, we're not going to get anybody to invite us to a meeting when we say, hey, we got a superior product,
sure,
but it's going to be 30% more expensive. And he said, you're exactly right. That's when we're going to get into the manufacturing business. We're going to open up our own factory.
Right.
So I almost hung up on him twice, once for the initial idea, and second about us now getting into the manufacturing business. Both of us had pretty good experience working for NVR, which arguably is one of the, in my biased opinion, it's one of the best home building operations in the entire country. Mm-hmm. So we're always very familiar with the panelization process.
Sure.
But he wanted to couple that with light gauge steel.
Okay.
To be competitive, you had to buy your own machines, you had to roll your own steel. So we were not buying any parts and pieces. Every single structural component that went into our homes was actually manufactured inside our own factory. So we started with 2 roll forming machines, and then we quickly grew into 8 machines. And then, like I said, right or wrong, we became the largest in the entire country. We got a lot of attraction, but there was still something missing for me. I was not passionate about just selling trusses.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a dry business to be in.
It really is. And for me, I have such a fascination and passion for the land entitlement side of our business. Mm-hmm. And for the last few years, the build for rent opportunities are out there. So we're seeing in the next 90 days, you'll see both of our companies merge together as one larger company.
No kidding.
And very excited about that. So when you think about the manufacturing process, it's very strict, it's very production driven, and doesn't really align super well when you have a ton of floor plans and a ton of different sizes and things of that nature.
Sure.
So we want to work towards being very vertically integrated. And a lot of folks talk about that, but we're actually positioning ourselves to truly do that. Well, where my passion is going out there, the hunt and kill, find the land, entitle it with my experience, being able to get it developed, and then be able to build all of the build for rent structures inside our factory.
Right.
So when you open up a 150 lot neighborhood, all 150 homes might be ready to be deployed and in place within 30 to 45 days versus 12 or 18 months.
So you have this vision of a fully integrated company that starts with land acquisition, land entitlement, all the way through building and the materials that it takes to build. Mm-hmm. Is that where it ends?
I hope so.
Is there an operational component in your future? Or are you really glutton for punishment?
Possibly. We know what our limitations are, so we'll bring in folks that are much better than ourselves and understand that core business of how to operate those build for rent communities. Mm-hmm. I have really, I think, done a good job of trying to be the dumbest guy in the room at all times.
Or at least pretending to be, so everyone answers all the questions. Well, it's the best way to get information out of people when you pretend, or you generally don't know the answers to the questions, and then they're happy to tell you everything they know.
Very, very, very true. So we'll align ourselves with folks that's what they're best at.
Yep.
Recognizing that I think we're pretty good at what we do, but we can't be all things to everyone. We know what our limitations are. We'll hire the experts to help us, and we've done that in regards to the operational side of that business.
So where do you land in the ecosystem of Charlotte real estate? Where are you offering the capital, a place to come in and capitalize on the land positions and the buildings that you're doing? Are you offering all of these things out as third-party services, or is it all toward the end of building things that you'll eventually own and operate yourselves over the long term?
It's a great question. We have multiple product lines that we can produce inside the factory. Mm-hmm. Anything from disaster relief shelters. We've been deploying those for areas that have been hit with pretty strong with the hurricanes and so forth. In fact, I leave tomorrow to meet with the city of Jacksonville. We have produced a lot of disaster relief, homeless shelters for those folks in the city of Jacksonville.
Okay.
Smaller structures. But in regards to, so that's the retail side of our business. Mm-hmm. So if someone calls and says, hey, we need 300-400 storage units for our storage facility, we can easily produce those for them, and we're currently doing that. When it comes to the single-family detached homes, those are being constructed inside our factory, deployed to these communities, and then being retained by ourselves with our capital partners.
Sure. Yeah. So we just did a deal together. We you developed a community called Long Farm, if I remember correctly. You bought it. You developed it. I sold it, or helped you sell it to one of our other clients that I think are doing build for rent right now, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yep. So in that respect, you were essentially just a land development and entitlement entity that gave this project over to the next, who are now doing build for rent, right?
That's correct.
So how is, land entitlement is probably one of the most risky, hardest parts of the equation. It's where the most value is created. Is that something that you started off doing, or you just kind of learned along the way as a necessary kind of component to what the overall business was? Because you need a land component after all.
Great question. I spent, like you mentioned, 12, 13 years at NVR.
Yep.
Learned the basic fundamentals of how to run a really solid home building operation. I spent half of that time on the sales and operational side. The last 6, 7 years I spent on the land side.
Okay.
And as folks know that are familiar with the NVR business model, they are not in the land development business. They are in the land acquisition, land entitlement business. I was very fortunate to learn the basic fundamentals there.
Yep.
Out of all the different positions I held at NVR, that was by far the one that I absolutely loved between sales, operation, and land. And then I carried it forward to Essex Homes when I was the president of land at Essex Homes.
Sure.
So that is the one aspect of the business that I am most comfortable with. But you do have to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to see it from start to finish, because at the end of the day, you're a problem solver. Every week there's something new that pops up, and as much as you do your due diligence and so forth, you need to prepare yourself for longer delays and cost overruns and things of that nature. But for some reason, I have an addiction to it. I've probably entitled 8,000 or 9,000 lots, and it's not just myself. I have a great team behind me. I recognize what my shortcomings are. I'm not an engineer. I'm not the technical guy, but I'm the folks that I'm the person that likes to work with folks and being able to put the deal together and find the win-win with whether it's a family that just inherited land and they really don't know what to do with it, or a very sophisticated developer that says, hey, we need to partner together. We like your skill set. We like the way you're looking at this deal. And for that's where you do add the value. And there is risk involved. We're very calculated in taking that risk. We know that you start with a few chips. You're not going to move all those chips to the center unless you're gaining your approvals along the way. And I'd say our batting average is, greater than 500% for sure. But
that ain't bad. Yeah.
Not too bad, but there's definitely ones that just unfortunately just do not work out as well.
I always find it interesting to hear how people grow their business and kind of fill these slots where they might have one expertise or even like proclivity to do something really well, and they need other people to kind of complement them. Like you mentioned, you started the business with your brother. It sounded like he was like the more risk-taking one of you two, and you were the more straight man to his crazy man, right?
Sure.
And you figure out how to build your business. Some people are more operationally minded, some people are more marketing minded, some people like, doing X, Y, Z. I'm curious, like over your evolution from home builder to steel fabricator to modular builder and now entitlement, like how have you as a business owner grown your business by attracting the right people? How do you find them? How do you figure out the conversation you need to have and with who to actually invite them into your business so it can grow?
Great question. For us, it's when we look at the common denominator of our business, we're attracting folks that have a technology mindset. It's not someone that maybe has been building homes for 20 or 30 years in a very traditional manner. Those folks are extremely important to our business. We have actually pulled folks into our business intentionally that have no real estate development, construction experience, that are just very good at what they do on the technology side. It's someone that wants to challenge the status quo. Our industry is, quite honestly, it's at the bottom as far as how do we make true technological advancements? When you look at all the other industries out there, we're at the bottom.
It's interesting. I was watching a podcast with Peter Thiel, speaking of Joe Rogan, and he was talking about the massive advancements that humanity has made, like in the bit world, like the online world. We focused all of our attention on this online realm, but the realm of atoms and reality there's not been a lot of change. Like, are we getting places faster today than we did 10 years ago? Like the Concorde was, shut down in 2002, right?
Right.
As more cars get on the road, there's more congestion. So like, that ability to actually do better in terms of the physical realm, which, let's face it, building and development is part of the physical realm, right? How much can technology really help you at the end of the day? So I'm curious, are there technologies out there that you're seeing as being like a big thing that's going to help improve the rate at which things get built, the ease at which things get built? Or is it still, you got to rely on what's been done before? I mean, you're obviously doing it in a new way. You're innovating with the way you're doing things. But is there a lot of that on the horizon? Do you see a lot of technological improvements on the horizon for this business?
I think there's a lot of great theories. I don't think there's a lot of great applications. I'm a huge proponent of offsite construction. You think about most products that we buy, a lot of them are built inside, a controlled environment. And housing has always been one of those things where we've all struggled with.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of great ideas and a lot of great theories out there, and folks have spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and haven't produced one structure that's made it out the door.
Yeah.
We do not want to be another casualty case. So, candidly speaking, over the last 7-8 years, we have the scars to show. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've learned from those mistakes, and we weren't trying to go from 0 to 100, miles an hour overnight. So we have a very dynamic and a very neat team from different disciplines. We have folks that are from the manufacturing sector, folks that are from, advanced technology sector. We have general contractors, we have land developers. So we built this entire team to really understand how do all of these puzzle pieces go together. And that's where I've really seen other companies, unfortunately, that's where their shortcomings are at. They may have a really great leadership team of all technology, but may never have built a home in their entire life, and vice versa.
Sure.
But it's a crawl, walk, run for us, for sure. Being able to kind of bring all those parts and pieces together to be able to deliver that home, well below market cost in a much quicker fashion, and it doesn't look like it's being produced inside a factory.
Explain the whole modular thing to me, because as a concept, building something and then transporting it to a site seems like it would cost less and there'd be less work involved, at least on the site. But then you kind of think it's going to cost more to transport it. You got to find people that could actually take it out of the box and put it up. Is modular building always a more cost-effective way to build real estate, or is it all dependent on who does the modular building and who eventually puts up the structure?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think you have to know and be very honest with yourself and very disciplined in what is your portfolio of product. I would say that if folks were coming to us and saying, we want you to build a 3,500, 4,000 plus square foot home, we're not the right fit for them. We're not, because to your point, at the speed in which certainly some of these larger national production builders can build those homes.
Pretty fast.
Very fast. Very, very impressive what they can do. They have their systems in place. They got a great following with their subcontractor base. That's really hard to compete with. I think knowing who you are, what your limitations are, and what your product is can absolutely save a tremendous amount of cost. I'll give you a couple examples. We take a lot of pride in being very streamlined. As a company, we have less than 10 floor plans.
Okay.
And each one of those are built in a modular fashion where they're just expanding that plan A to go from plan A to plan B is we're just adding another module to it.
Okay.
I think the biggest cost savings is really being able to have the savings on the time frame so that when the first phase of 50 lots is already on the ground, you literally have all 50 homes produced and ready to be deployed.
There's a timing aspect to it too, right? Because if you're going to be efficient about the production, the whole timetable is super important, right? Because
Absolutely.
The minute the first one's out the door, you need to be producing at a steady rate, and the people that are building it need to be building at a steady rate.
That's right.
So that to me is probably would seem like the biggest challenge, making sure you get the timing right.
It's a very coordinated effort because in my experience, very few developments are on schedule and and on budget.
Yeah,
so
even when it's like not modular building, right?
That's exactly right.
There's rain delays. There's production delays. How do you manage that? Do you manage it better than big production builders, or do you just do it differently?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's paying attention to exactly where they're at in the process. In fact, we will not start to deploy homes until there's at least 15 or 20 slabs in front of us because we'll very quickly catch up to them.
Sure.
But there's a fine balance there because you don't want to put out so much capital and have, 30, 40, 50 homes that sit on our 13-acre campus and they're sitting there for months that have to be maintained. So it's a well-oiled machine, but there's a lot of coordination between us and whoever that general contractor may be. In most cases, it's us.
And it seems like there would be a financing component of it too, because builders take out construction loans to build their homes. I'm assuming your business works the same way, where you're doing some kind of financing for the steel that you're creating the modular units out of. Correct?
Yes, that's probably the biggest challenge. And if you
it seems like it'd be a capital intensive.
It is very capital intensive up front because when you think about for most of the small to mid-sized builders, I think the larger national builders, a lot of it is they have their banking relationships and they have their large credit lines, et cetera. But for the smaller builders like our sister company, Broad Street Homes, everything is on a draw progression schedule. So you pour your footings, you call for a draw, you put your foundation in, you call draw for a draw. The biggest challenge with the financing of modular structures is, and I spoke very openly with a couple of our traditional lenders, it's like, Brian, if there's an issue, what am I foreclosing on? In a sense, like I can't go to the lot.
Yeah, they're coming to your factory with the yellow tape. Yeah.
So we are creative in making sure that our capital partners understand the benefits of that, but they also understand the risk involved in that as well. So it's a different type of financing, and there is a lot of legislation being reviewed right now to open that up for modular construction.
Yep. So think about Charlotte right now. It's the market shifted like all over the country. Interest rates are higher. Capital is being a little more cautious about what it builds. I'm curious, how that's, or if it's affected your business. Like on the land development side, are you being more cautious about what you're spending your time on? Are you just seeing this as a little blip in the market where it'll eventually come back? Like right now, we used to get at Strada townhome lots, and we get 3 offers on it the next day if it was in a decent location. Now there's a ton of townhome product in the market. Builders are generally veering away from that product. I'm curious, with your business, especially the slow moving nature of all your businesses, from like land development to fabrication. Is the shift in the market kind of throwing you through a loop, or are you shifting your business to accommodate in a specific way?
Yeah, I think you'll find my statement to be a little odd. I think I find myself.
Say it anyway.
I think I find myself on an island with this statement. I'm actually glad,
really,
in one sense, because for the small outfits like ourselves, it gives us an opportunity to be able to step in and take advantage of some of the opportunities that the large builders that are just going to either take a pass or the turn these back in. So I see it as an opportunity. I've been through this multiple times. And sometimes a downturn in the market, it allows the smaller groups like ourselves to step in and being able to take advantage of these projects that we may not have been able to be competitive with when the market was really good and frothy and everyone's throwing out the Black American Express cars.
Sure. Yep.
So for us now, we see it as a window of opportunity to step in. Not going to make bad decisions, but I just think we're given an opportunity now to be able to take advantage of some of the opportunities that maybe 6 months ago or 12 months ago, when there was that knee-jerk reaction to pull back, we're taking advantage of that because we're also going to see pure speculation on my part, but seeing this happen in a very cyclical manner in the next 6, 12, 18 months, all of the builders that have pulled back are going to be looking to fill their 27, 28, and 29 pipeline, and they may not have the lots to do that. So knowing that the entitlement process is not a 6, 12, or even 18-month process anymore, it's anywhere from a 24-month on a good day. I mean, I just closed 2 deals, and I was involved in those deals for 5 years and 8 years.
Wow.
So it is
That's nuts.
So I'm either doing something really wrong or
maybe
they're really good deals.
Yeah, maybe you just need to get better land entitlement. I don't know.
Maybe so.
It's taking you longer. But that's what everyone says. It's a hugely risky and time-consuming endeavor, and you have no guarantee of success at the end of the day. And I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing from the perspective, it seems like the barrier to entry in a market like Charlotte would be extremely high for anyone new to the land development realm to come into, right?
100% agree. We've been asked as a firm, like, will you guys help us with land positions in Texas and Florida?
Yeah.
And my answer is no.
Yeah. It's a different animal. Yeah.
It is. And I think part of it is you want to be an expert in something that's in your backyard. I mean, could we stretch ourselves and go to other markets? We could, but that learning curve, it could be a couple years. We don't want to make a decision based off of what others are telling us to do and what we think we should be doing. We want to know down to the street name that there's an invisible boundary here. You want to be here. You don't want to cross over the road here. It becomes very, very local, and we want to be the experts in our sub-markets and our market here in Charlotte. Even within Charlotte, I am much more comfortable putting deals on the board in South Charlotte than I am North Charlotte.
Really?
I am. I've spent most of my career.
Why is that?
I think it's just, I've spent the last 25 years primarily focused on South Charlotte, and certainly we're gravitating towards North Charlotte, but I really want to understand that when someone talks about ABC Road at, XYZ intersection, I know exactly where they're talking about, and I'm not all over the place trying to pretend that I'm really good and my team's really good all over the East Coast, because we're not. We're really good, I think, in the Charlotte market in about a 60 to 90 mile radius, and outside that, there's definitely a learning curve for us.
Are there better, think about Charlotte, and there's so many different sub-markets, and everyone has its own kind of characteristics and personality. Are there some areas, not to ask you to spill your secret sauce, but are there areas of Charlotte that you look at it and you just know that's the place to be next versus another area like Dilworth or Noda that's already kind of been built out where like you got to pay through the nose in order to get some project there? Do you think, going out west to Gastonia or even up to Statesville or out to Concord is the key? Is there one area of Charlotte or a few areas of Charlotte that you think offer better opportunities than the others?
I think there's opportunity everywhere around Charlotte. I do. I think the barrier of entry in certainly some jurisdictions is a lot more difficult than others.
Why is that, by the way? Is it because they're less pro-growth or trying to get things approved there?
I won't mention a jurisdiction that was very, very pro-growth, very, very pro-development. They probably swung the pendulum a little bit too far, and the infrastructure, whether it was the roads, the schools, or sewer, just couldn't keep up. So now they've kind of closed that door and said, we got an issue now. We've kind of swung the pendulum too far.
Sure.
I don't think we have the secret sauce.
Yeah.
We don't. We follow the school districts. We follow sewer and where the next opportunities are going to be. And in our industry, I hate to use this analogy, I think we're kind of like a herd of cow, where one builder or two builders or three builders start to go left, all the other builders start to, sit up in their chair and go, what's going on over there in Gastonia or Belmont or Rock Hill or wherever it may be. And all of a sudden you start to see, more 4x8 signs popping up because they think that's the next best place.
How often have you found yourself to be the first cow veering out of the pasture into greener pastures?
I had a mentor tell me one time that usually pioneers end up face down with an arrow in their back. So I'm not usually the guy that's going to be the first one.
Makes a good story though. It does.
Usually not going to be the guy that's going to be the first one to that sub-market.
Sure.
In a lot of cases, I may not be the first guy that's looked at that land opportunity.
Yep.
And in a lot of cases, you balance it out with sellers that might have fatigue because you're the second, third, or fourth group that you're talking to. But then there's also a little bit of reality that is brought into the equation where, the first one or two groups couldn't get it done. What makes you any different?
Yep.
And I think what makes us different in some cases is just setting the right expectations. It's not coming in and saying, we can absolutely get this done and it's going to be a 6 or 12 month process. I'm very open with the sellers. And I think one of the most flattering things that's actually happened to us twice this month alone is when you have land sellers call you back and say, hey, we had a really good experience with you. We didn't always agree with your timeframes up front. And but I'm very upfront with them and say, hey, this is going to be a 36-month process, and I might be off. It could be even longer than that. And they appreciated that. Not everybody does, but in some cases, when you're the second or third guy coming to that conversation, I think they're looking for transparency and honesty. And at the end of the day, that's what we're going to bring.
Yeah, I think especially in land development, I'm doing a deal right now where things don't always work out the way you expect. Sometimes the market shifts, and a house you thought you'd be able to sell for $800,000, now you're thinking it's going to sell for $600,000. And sometimes financing is not as easy to come by. Even if you have a really experienced land developer, you're still going to have to navigate, market shifts, right? Do you think you inevitably, those relationships inevitably get soured when that happens? Or do you think there's a way to manage those relationships and kind of prepare them to say, hey, these things might happen up front, so they're not so surprised if they do happen. If they don't happen, you're a rock star. You're the guy that got it done.
It's a great question. And I think that's where the transparency comes into the conversation. And I've been probably more open than most. And I actually learned this from one of our clients that, we were negotiating and they said, let us show you our pro forma up front to show you exactly what we can pay for entitled lots based off of this, development budget. This is the cost of our construction. And it opened my eyes to go, you know what, they just built a tremendous amount of credibility. And what it led to was, we're in a position to pay this much for entitled lots based off of the other lever, which is how much is the lot going to cost to develop. And, I was very appreciative of that. So when they came back and said, Brian, our development costs they're a lot more excessive than we thought. I appreciated that transparency up front, and we worked together in that regard. So I took that best practice, and I'm very open with our land sellers to say, hey, I'm able to pay X because I'm anticipating that my development costs are going to be Y, and my retail pricing on these homes, if it's a for sale product, is going to be Z. If those things shift, I at least wanted to plant that benchmark of where we're at today. And if it goes the opposite direction, I'm okay adjusting to the positive as well.
Sure.
If I need more time, I'm okay paying for that as well because the market shifts in our favor as well. So I've always looked for how do we make this a win-win. And early in my career, I was probably a little heavier in my negotiating, like where I felt like I had to get every dime off the table.
Sure.
And what I realized quickly is that just became a transaction.
Yeah.
And it was a one-time conversation. It felt good when we closed. And then I realized as I became a little bit wiser that I don't want this to be a transaction. I want this to be a relationship. And it's okay to leave a little bit on the table because maybe there's a day where they contact me and say, we have another opportunity. And it's happened twice in the last month, which was probably the most flattering news. And they could have selected anybody, and there's folks out there that are better than we are. But I was thrilled that we got that phone call because of the credibility that we built in a previous land dealing with them.
Yeah, it kind of goes into the last question is people generally don't understand all the things that go into land development, building. That transparency, I'm sure, helps you manage those relationships. But like, going into conversations with landowners, people that are involved in different stakeholders along the way, do you find yourself explaining things time and time again? Like, what do people get wrong about the assumptions they make about what you do and how you do it that you normally have to correct and kind of readjust their perception about what you do?
I think it's based off your audience. If you're dealing with a very sophisticated land seller, they understand what goes into that process of land entitlement and land development.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with someone that, like I mentioned, you have a family of 5 that inherited land from their parents, et cetera, that's a tough conversation.
They don't know. They don't understand.
They don't know. And I think it's our job, and I think our industry's probably done a mediocre job at best, explaining to them that this is the process. And when you have siblings that may be all over the country and it may be getting done faster in their area versus somewhere else, I have gone as far as actually bringing those family members to me, with me to those meetings with planning directors and with the board of commissioners and planning board, et cetera, and say, hey guys, this is not just lip service. I'm not just telling you that this is how long it's going to take. I want you to hear it directly from, folks from the municipality, from the jurisdictions are going to be making those decisions. So I think that's probably the biggest disconnect is the market's going to tell you what the land at the end of the day is going to be worth.
Sure.
I'm old school. I start with what can we sell a home for? There's only 100 pennies in a dollar, and everybody's trying to make a certain margin.
Hold on, let me check. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. 100 pennies in a dollar. Yeah.
So, and you just get to a point where it's like, it's got to work for everybody. It's got to work for the sellers. It's got to work for us, et cetera. And just that transparency up front kind of builds that trust.
So finally, if you can wave a magic wand and think about what your business is going to look like in the next, 5, 10, 15, all the way until the time you hang it up, where do you land at the end of the journey?
It's a great question. Definitely in a very scalable mode right now. We have one factory that we've already outgrown, so we're looking to build our second factory now.
Yep.
It will be in the Carolinas, and then being able to move into 3 or 4 other factories in the Southeast. Transportation is definitely a hindrance in our business. You said it best.
Yep.
It kind of controls the size of the product, and you can add a lot of expense by just transporting, either modules that are getting put together to build a structure or just one module itself. So in the next 5 years, being realistic that I'd like to be within our second, possibly our third factory. We've identified locations now, and we're pretty risk adverse. I mean, we want to be able to walk into a nice calculated book of business versus just showing up in whether it's the Tennessee market or the Florida market and say, hey, we're here. Who's going to show up and be able to start buying products?
Right.
So, but in the next 5 years, my goal will be to have, 3 factories on the ground, 2 in addition to what we have now. In the next 10 years, it would be to have not only additional facilities, if warranted, of course, but from a ownership standpoint, to be able to get to, roughly 2,500 to 3,000 units that we have under our ownership as a company.
Well, that's great. That's great. It's part of the reason why Strada is doing what it's doing right now. We're going to be doing this event on October 23rd, and we're anchoring all of our local activity to an event where people like the best home builders, developers, and operators can come together in one room, share ideas. Because I feel like, with that aspiration, there are definitely people in this industry, in this market, that can add value to that. It's about meeting the right people with the right resources that see your vision to be that in the future and might have an idea or some resources to make it happen. And looking forward to having you be part of that. Looking forward to, having those ideas about different ways of building, different ways of getting deals done, be part of the event. So, Brian, appreciate you joining with me today. It's been awesome.
It's been fantastic, and congrats on the success of your business.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate letting us be a client of yours and being able to facilitate a relationship more than just a transaction with the folks that we were able to work with in the past. And I'm super excited where your business is at, and super excited where it's going as well.
Well, the deals we did together were not the easiest, but super enjoyable. You're a good guy.
Absolutely. Likewise. Logical minds figure it out. And it's a relationship business. So I've always enjoyed working with you.
Amen.
A lot more to come.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.